Hello, guys, and since today is St. Patrick's Day, I am going to be doing episode 10 of Jack Reads, where I will be reading Rosie and Jim, and the Rainbow. And so, let's continue on with the book. And so, here is the book, which is Rosie and Jim and the Rainbow. Rosie and Jim and the Rainbow. Rosie and Jim are on their boat, the good old boat Ragdoll. John steers the boat. What will they find today for John to put in his book? Look, said Rosie. Look, Jim, in the sky. Oh, it's magic, said Jim. There were colours in the sky. A band of colours going high up and over the sky far away. Said John. A rainbow. Lovely. It's blue and red, said Rosie. And yellow and orange and green, said Jim. Whack, said Duck. We're off, said Rosie. Where are we going today? To find the end of the rainbow, said Jim, and get new colours for our boat. Oh, noggin, said Rosie. Look at these trees. I think we're going into a dark, dark wood. Oh, Rosie, said Jim. It's spooky. There might be a monster in the wood. And it's going to gobble us up, said Rosie. Boat and Jim and all. And Jim and John and all. Oh, stop it, said Jim. John steered the boat too close to the trees. The branches went scritch, scratch, clackety clang all along the side of the boat. There's a tree pointing our boat, said Rosie. Trees don't bite, said Jim. These do, said Rosie. They're all green, said Jim. Green and dark. And he made a picture of the trees in his drawing book. The boat bobbed so much that the cups rattled in the sink. Rosie and Jim sang a song. Scritch, scratch, bumpity bump, the boat tips up and the cups go jump. Splish, splash, jiggity jog. Is it a boat or is it a frog? There's the monster, shouted Rosie. It's biting our boat, and it has great goggling eyes and a big gobbly mouth. Help! Shouted Jim, covering his eyes up. It's only a frog, said Rosie. Look. And when Jim did look, he saw a little green frog sitting by the water. I wish I were a frog, said Jim. Then John wouldn't bump me. You'd have to sleep in the bath, said Rosie. Oh, I think I'll still be a Jim then. I'll paint the frog instead, but I can't colour my frog and the trees all around him. Why not, Noggin? Said Rosie. I have no green paint, said Jim. Then John stopped the boat and tied it up not far from the shops, and oh, what a mess it was! There were scratches everywhere. Rosie heard him sing, and he was going to get some paint to mend it. She gave Jim a nudge. Come on, Goblin. He's going to the shop to get some paint, she said. Oh, if we're quick, we can go with him and get some green paint, said Jim. They hurried after John, just in time to see him disappearing into a little hardware shop. There was a notice outside that said paint in big letters. Rosie looked through the window and saw John getting his paint and brushes. What colours is he getting, Rosie? Said Jim. Blue, said Rosie, and yellow, and red. No, green, said Jim. No green, said Rosie. The silly goblin's forgotten. He needs green for the boat. Oh, Rosie, said Jim. Stay here, said Rosie. Keep your head down. She slipped into the shop when John wasn't looking and popped a pot of green paint amongst his shopping. Then she slipped out again. Done it, said Rosie. John was so busy looking round the shop and talking to the man that he never noticed he had paid for an extra pot of green paint. John went back to the boat with his paint. Rosie and Jim were there before him, sitting in their place in the cabin. John set to work to paint the patterns on his boat where all the scratches were. He didn't see a little hand come and take the pot of green paint from his bag. John painted over the blue scratches. John painted over the red scratches. John painted over the yellow scratches. Jim painted his frog picture a lovely green colour. John went to the green scratches. Oh dear, he said. I forgot to get any green paint. Now what? John had an idea. I'll make some green, he said. I'll mix some, let's see, some blue and some yellow. I think that will do it. He poured some yellow into a jar. Then he poured some blue in. He stirred them up with a piece of wood, and, hey presto, green. He painted the boat with his newly mixed green paint until it looked as good as new. In the cabin, Jim said, I want to mix some green. Now then, Rosie, how did Fizzpot do it? Said Rosie. He mixed two colours together. Was it blue and red? Said Jim. Oh, noggin, no it wasn't, said Rosie. Red and yellow. Fizzpot. I know, said Jim. Blue and yellow. Try it, said Rosie. Jim mixed the yellow and blue and made a new green paint. You've done it, said Rosie. Jim painted his picture. He painted the trees and the grass with his new green paint. It was time to clean the brushes and tidy away. John cleaned his brushes. Jim cleaned his brushes. Duck quacked. Quick, said Rosie. He's coming. Rosie and Jim sat on their seat as still. John came into the cabin and began to write his story. When he had gone to bed, Jim said, Let's have a look at John's book. So they did, and this is the story that they read. Rosie and Jim and the Rainbow. One fine day, Rosie and Jim were chugging along in the good boat Ragdoll when they came to a dark forest. In the middle of the forest sat the Frog King. There were no colours at all. It was all grey and gloomy. It's horrid, said Rosie. Where have all the colours gone? Said Jim. I've swallowed them, said the Frog King. said Rosie, and she looked up. Look, she said, and there is a band of colour going right across the sky. It's a rainbow, said Jim. They sailed their boat to the end of the rainbow. There they found 3 pots of paint, a red pot, a blue pot, and a yellow pot. Now we can put the colours back in the world, said Rosie. But there are only 3 colours here, said Jim. We can make all the other colours if we mix them, said Rosie. You'll see. And she was right. Rosie and Jim painted their boat. Then they painted the grass, the trees, and the sky. The Frog King was so cross that he went green all over. But he never swallowed the colours again. The end. Rosie and Jim are puppet dolls who travel with John in his narrowboat, Ragdoll. When he's not looking, they are up to mischief. In this story, they watch John mixing paint to cover scratches on Ragdoll. In the evening, still thinking about colours, John writes them a story about a bad-tempered Frog King who swallowed all the colours in the world. The end. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed that story. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye bye.